Shalom. There's a well-known family of chesed living in New York called the Rabbinovitz family. And this Rabbinovitz family would ply all sorts of underprivileged people with acts of loving kindness. They raised funds and they distributed the funds. They fed the hungry. It was a family which was known for their chesed. And they started training their children at a very young age. They had a daughter called Chavi, 9 years old. Chavi was assigned, as part of her training for chesed, she was assigned to a blind lady, 63-year-old lady who was blind and hadn't mastered Braille. And Chavi was assigned to go to her every day and read to her. And she would read her stories and read her messages, and this was Chavi's training. One day after a session, when she finished reading to this lady, her name was Mrs. Lieberson, when she finished reading her story, the lady sighed and said, "Only another 2 years." Chavi said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, in 2 years, I'll no longer be blind." Chavi said, "What do you mean?" She said, "I'm 63. I get a pension at the age of 65. My blindness is temporarily. I have a condition that developed in my eyes which made me blind, and there's very expensive surgery that costs well in excess of $100,000 that can completely restore my eyesight. But I don't have the funds. 2 years' time, I'm going to get pension that's accrued to me all the years, and with this pension money, I'm going to be able to have my eyesight restored." Chavi was tremendously overwhelmed by this. And she said, "But that can't be. How can you suffer for another 2 years when it's just a question of money?" Chavi said, "I'm going to raise the money, and you're going to have this operation this week." And she said to her, "Who's the doctor?" And this Mrs. Liebson mentioned to her a certain well-known eye surgeon. So Chavi said, "Okay, I'm going to make sure that this week you have your operation." Chavi went the next day to school, and she made a collection. She went with a big envelope, big manila envelope, and she made a collection. And she went from class to class and was raising funds for the operation of the blind lady. At the end of the day, she had raised the grand total of $83. So Chavi said, "Great, I've got all this money now." It was in dimes and cents and quarters, and I've got all this money now. And she tracked down where's this great professor, this eye surgeon, and she went to his offices. She came to the office, and the people asked her, "Yes," and she said, "I have to see the doctor now." And they were a little bit concerned, this little 9-year-old, and without asking any further, she virtually pushed her way past and went into the doctor's room. And she said, "Doctor, there's a lady called Mrs. Liebson, and Mrs. Liebson needs surgery, and you can perform the surgery, but she doesn't have the money. Well, I raised the money." And she plonked onto his desk her envelope that she had proudly raised, and the doctor was completely shocked by the power of this young girl. He emptied the contents, and together they counted the grand total of $83, to which he said, "Yeah, that'll do it. That's probably how much I need." And he wouldn't take no for an answer. He arranged immediately for, within the next day or two, Mrs. Liebson would be operated upon. And the operation was a great success. Mrs. Liebson's eyesight was restored. When Chavi's parents heard of this, they very embarrassedly came, and they heard that Chavi had perpetrated this. They came to the hospital and they said, "We have a grand debt here. We know that this operation costs in excess of $100,000, So we will have to we'll take loans. Our daughter incurred this huge debt, but we'll go for it. We're happy that she took it with such passion and power. The doctor said, it's fully paid. The $83 was definitely worth the $100,000 that this operation costs. And I pride myself that these $83 is the most beautiful $83 I've ever seen. It's certainly worth well in excess of $100,000. When something is done with purity and passion, it carries itself very far. It takes the purity and the naivety and the sweetness and beauty of a young child, that when something needs to be done and it's important, then we don't waste time. There are no barriers. This is a great attitude for us to take in life. We should always be blessed with the purity and the naivety and the passion of a young child. It's so beautiful and it goes a long way.